This is the third session of the crash course. And the first session, it was a general introduction, and second one, it was the in detail analysis of different chapters, 13 chapters. We have already completed that. And today, as I promised, that I'm going to go through important contexts, important areas, selected context and important areas that you might use in your answers, and sometimes the context I suggest would be there in the question paper. It's just a guess only. I'm not a magician to think that this context would appear in the question paper. But anyway, I have picked certain contexts and I'll be discussing them. While discussing that, you would be getting some sort of updates regarding the novel. So there are stay focused, and if you have any problem regarding network, electricity, and so on, do not worry. I'm going to send the video maybe by tomorrow morning, right? As promised, I send the other two videos as well. So a brief summary of brief summary of the 13 chapters. Very quickly we move on. I won't spend much time on this, but this will be kind of this is needed to carry on with today's lesson. There are 13 chapters. So I said that chapter 1 is very important. It is the introduction of setting Malgudi, and we know the character Kasim Jagan are introduced. And after all, we came to know that chapter 1 is vivid introduction of Jagan's sweetmeat shop, otherwise we can call it the primary setting of the novel. In Malgudi, one sweetmeat shop of Jagan. There may be other sweetmeat shops. This is Jagan's sweetmeat shop. It says, it implies that Jagan is a well-off gentleman, well-off salesman. He's having certain peculiar character qualities. And many say that he's hypocritical. And he appears to be a Hindu who is who is reading Hindu scriptures always. And chapter 2 is a revelation of Jagan's personal life. And there we find that how Jagan became a single parent after Ambika's death, reasons for Ambika's death, and how Mali becomes a single parented child. Chapter 3 starts the action, actually. It starts the conflict between father and son. This showcases that Mali's desire to be independent, and he shows that rejecting domestic cultures, home culture, which India often cherishes. India always says that family is first. But here we find that decadence of that from Ambika's death, Mali's peculiar behavior, and Mali's drop of communication with the father. Maybe that he is blaming the father for mother's death, and he complains about India's education, and he says that I can't go to school. I want to follow my own routine of study. And at all these places, we find that Jagan is a submissive. He is controlled by the son's work, son's commands. At first, he is not controlled, but later on, we know that he becomes so flexible, and he follows the orders of the son. Here we find that Kasim's character becomes an important character as a mediator to bridge the communication between the father and son. Chapter 4 became significant. Mali goes to America, and Mali robs money. And I discussed this with you as something which is critical. This is sort of moral decadence. You know what morality means, right? Moral means our awareness about good and bad. This is one place where we find Mali's decadence, moral decadence, right? He robs money from the father to achieve his target. 5, Mali's establishment in America, and Jagan receives letters from Mali, and in the novel it says that Jagan often reads Bhagavad Gita. It is replaced by some airmail letters. He keeps on reading airmail letters received from uh, Mali. Mali brings grace. Grace has sort of connection to Asia, Korea, Asia. That now she's living in a country where we find that it is sort of totally westernized. So Samadhyanda, in the coming chapters, we come to know that she shows some tendencies of Asian girl. She likes to adapt to situations of Asian culture, and she loves to be in a house, be in a family, and cooking and so on. So that Grace tries to adapt to the situation. So, but she's not able to because of the dominance of Mali, because of Mali, right? Then we find chapter 6 important because of the storytelling machine. India is noted for its art, especially written work, literature. Especially in the novel, it mentions about Valmiki and some other writers. Bhagavad Gita is also written by a great writer, Ramayan, and all these are noted and world famous. In a country like that, what can we do with a storytelling machine to produce stories? This is a contradiction we find in between the father and son. And this is sort of a cultural conflict that the storytelling machine brings. And maybe this kind of hint of the arrival of industrialization industrialization to India. It was there, but this is kind of it was rising up like. Further avoidance of communication between father and son. And the turning point of this chapter is Jagan's realization money is evil. This is important. Jagan reduces the prices of sweet meat, and there's a big hustle created because of this particular action. Other vendors come and make a little, commotion there to increase the prices. Then he meets somebody, a bearded man, Chinnadurai, and there it makes a turning point of Jagan's life. Chapter 8. Jagan finds serenity, calm and quiet surrounding, which can rather make up his mind. By now that he has sort of a troubled mind, chaotic mind, confused mind, so that this area would provide some sort of a facility for him to make up his mind. Chapter 9 is also important. The concept of new Janma. He feels that he's born again. And there we find that he takes kind of strong decision not to support Mali's business. There we find Mali makes a condition. If you do not support us, that Grace would have left the country. Jagan gets a small hint that there's a kind of crack in Mali's and Grace's relationship, and there is something peculiar in their relationship. Chapter 10 is a kind of shocking revelation to Jagan. It's a technique, shocking revelation. Jagan realizes Mali's and Grace's marriage is not a true marriage, sort of living together. Is being a traditionist that he becomes utterly disappointed. There we find Kasin's intervention becomes very important. Now we can notice that Kasin intervenes at every commotion between the father and son. Chapter 3, 4, we find Kasin's intervention is very important. Grace's arrival, Kasin's intervention. Now again, we find a strong intervention of Kasin. You need to remember them as well. Chapter 12, flashback of Jagan's wedding. This contrasts Mali's and Grace's relationship with Jagan's and Ambika's traditional relationship. This gives a didactic message, means educative message about India's traditional arranged marriages And further, this goes beyond that, and it's rather, this displays something important, how male becomes the first in all these traditions. This unveils patriarchal Indian society in traditions. Then, even though now we have two marriages in the novel, one is two relationships, Grace and Ambika, Grace and Mali, and Ambika and Jagan. Ambika and Jagan's marriage is a kind of traditionally arranged marriage. It was done according to customs, but this is not a marriage of this nature. But what is the outcome of them? First one, suffering. Second one, suffering. We find that male to male ultimately start controlling the relationships. Ambika never died. Ambika died unhappily, whereas Grace is to leave unhappily. So this sort of suggestion done by Narayan. Whatever it is your relationship. It's your understanding about your partner. It's not the way that the marriage takes place. Then last is Jagan goes to retreat. Mali is arrested. Jagan repeatedly says that punishment would correct Mali. And here we find that tension is created in the novel. We too have sort of an idea that Jagan would release Mali. Jagan would sympathize with Mali, but here we don't find it. He believes that punishment would correct Mali's life. Then he assigns Kasim to check all these businesses, and he writes a check to give bail to Mali and promises Kasim that if Grace needs to go back to America, he would be buying the ticket. So somehow or the other, he doesn't turn back, but we always keep a question in our mind whether Jagan's decision at the last point of the novel is a serious decision or an act of escapism. It is to escape from the situation, or else that he is totally fed up of life. The novelist doesn't show both the ends, but he has a suggestion that he has not totally understood that life is not really fruitful, because his certain actions show that he is not totally fed up of his life, right? He has some beliefs about it, and on the other hand, that he doesn't show any tendency to go and safeguard Mali and doesn't want to earn more money. So there we feel that he's trapped in between these two worlds yet, but he's going to leave his legacy to find another legacy in life. So this is the quick summary of all the 13 chapters.
All right, let me ask you something. What happens when your deepest, most cherished...
So this would again enrich your knowledge regarding the novel's core idea. While listening, while watching, please make sure you take notes and learn terms. And while the video is being played, that you get some question areas as well, question areas, some important information. Please make sure that you note down. If it is a little fast, once a video is given to you, you can stop and write down notes. But for the moment, I need you to focus and take down notes fast.
All right, let me ask you something. What happens when your deepest, most cherished beliefs are challenged by the one person you love more than anyone? That's the dilemma right at the heart of Arcane Narayan's classic novel, The Vendor of Sweets. It's this incredible story about a father's unwavering faith crashing head-on with his son's big dreams for the future.
So this book came out way back in 1967, and it drops us right into the life of a sweet seller, a man who follows Gandhian principles to the letter. His life is, well, it's peaceful, it's ordered. That is, until his son comes back from America, bringing all these radical, modern ideas with him. And just like that, everything gets turned upside down. It's a really powerful story, you know? It's about this one family's drama, but it's also about a whole nation in transition. So to really get the conflict here, we first have to understand our main guy, Jagan. We need to step into his world, a world built on, well, unwavering principle. Okay, so where are we? We're in Malgudi. If you know R.K. Narayan's work, you know this town. It's this amazing fictional place that kind of represents all of post-colonial India, which is wrestling with all this change. And right here, in the middle of it all, is Jagan and his sweet shop. And for him, he's not just selling sweets. No, he truly believes he's in the business of selling happiness. So what makes this guy tick? Well, Jagan's life is basically run by a super strict set of Gandhian principles. We're talking non-violence, simple living, self-reliance, the whole deal. And for him, these aren't just posters on a wall, you know? They affect everything, from the ingredients he uses in his sweets to his belief in truthfulness. This code, it's not just part of his identity, it is his identity.
And here is where things get interesting. Because under that surface of simple living and, not being attached to material things, Jagan is actually a pretty sharp businessman. He has this secret stash of cash, a hidden reserve from his profits. A little bit of a contradiction, right? It's this touch of hypocrisy that makes him so complex and honestly, a little tragic, a little comic.
In this world he's so carefully built for himself, principles on one hand, contradictions on the other, it's all about to crack. And the person holding the hammer? His own son, Mali. And this is really the core of the whole story. You've got Jagan on one side, representing tradition, Indian culture, the hands-on craft of his sweet shop. And then you have Mali, who's completely dazzled by modernity, by America, and by this grand ambition to be a writer. I mean, they're not just on different pages, they're in completely different books. So the gap between them just keeps growing, especially when Mali announces he's quitting college. But you want to know how bad the communication is? Jagan doesn't even find out his own son is planning to move to America from Mali. Nope, he has to hear it secondhand, from his cousin, who's kind of stuck in the middle of this whole mess. Just shows you how far apart they've drifted.
That distance, which was already huge, becomes a massive, uncrossable ocean when Mali finally does come back. He doesn't just bring luggage, he brings a whole new world with him, a world his father just can't wrap his head around.
So Mali's back, but he's not the same kid who left. Not at all. And he's not alone.
He brings home a woman named Grace. She's half Korean, half American, and Mali just casually introduces her as his wife. Now you have to put yourself in Jagan's shoes. This is a man who believes in tradition, in arranged marriages, a foreign daughter-in-law, a marriage that happened where? How? It's more than a shock. It's like an earthquake shaking the very foundations of his life.
And if that wasn't enough, then comes the big idea, something called a storytelling machine. What is it? Well, Mali's plan is to get American funding to basically mass-produce novels in India. Think about it. This machine is the total opposite of everything Jagan stands for. It's impersonal, it's corporate, it's Western, compared to his life's work of making sweets by hand. And of course, to get this grand plan off the ground, Mali needs something only one person has, his father's money.
So with all this pressure from Mali, with this alien new world basically setting up shop in his house, you'd think Jagan would fight back, right? Argue? Yell? Nope. He does something else entirely. He starts this very strange, very quiet retreat from his own life. In this retreat, it happens in these three kind of wild stages. First, he starts this bizarre protest. He just dramatically drops the prices of his sweets, which, as you can imagine, causes total chaos on the market. Then he has this fateful meeting with a mysterious master sculptor, this bearded man, who shows him a completely different way of life. And that leads to the final step. Jagan decides he's done. He's going to abandon his business, his home, all of it, and go chase a life of serenity. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the novel. And it's an ending that's powerful, but also really ambiguous. This is where Jagan's retreat, his new philosophy, gets its ultimate test. And then the cousin shows up with some bombshell news. Mali has been arrested. Yep, all those modern ambitions of his have landed him in trouble with the law. But Jagan's reaction? It's unsettlingly calm. He's totally detached. He's made his decision, and he's not getting involved. In fact, his response is almost chilling. He says, if he is in prison, he will be taken care of. That's the best thing that could have happened to him. Can you believe that? He sees prison as a good thing, a place where Mali will finally be looked after. And then, in one last really telling moment, even as he keeps his distance from his son, he does show this little flicker of something. He offers to buy Grace a plane ticket to go back home to America. And that's where the novel leaves us, with this massive, hanging question. By cutting himself off from everything, even his own son, has Jagan actually reached some kind of spiritual freedom he was looking for? Or has he just found a really high-minded excuse to abandon his family? The book doesn't give you an easy answer, and that's the point, I think. It makes us really think about the true price of living by your principles.
Okay, it's a really fast summary of the novel, and you saw the last suggestion as well. Was it a true act of Jagan? Otherwise, it was his way of escaping. Otherwise, he abandoned the family to get away from this situation. So again, the novel doesn't give any particular justification to the end. But in our last discussion, fourth class, I have planned some questions to discuss these ambiguous areas with particular information. So the last day would be about discussing questions, especially essay questions, writing introductions, writing conclusions, how to compile the body of an essay, and what are the things you should do, things you should not do. All these will be discussed in the last class, taking some questions, live questions from the novel. All right, now, as promised, I'm going to take certain important quotations from the novel. We're going to examine them one by one, and you can, if you feel like talking, I'm really happy if you can talk to me. My first set of quotations for you, I prefer if you can remember them, because when you write essays, you are supposed to write justifications, right? If you are not justified, the examiners would hesitate to offer the full mark. So that I have selected some quotations for you. The first quotation, I believe that this is you can see them, right? Can you see these letters? Can I have a little response from you? Can you read them? Guys, is it readable?
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't have to write them, but still I feel I ask you to write important points, right? I think that I have to send this to you. If not, I'm going to send it to you now. Word by word would be discussed, so that make sure that you write them. I'm going to do it fast, and after that I'm going to go for the long quotations. I'm going to discuss them in detail, right? Conquer taste and you will have conquered the self. It's a place where we find, this is a quotation where we find at the very outset of the novel. Who speaks this? Who speaks these words?
Jagan.
Jagan.
Again, yes. Can someone tell me the idea? Yes. Come on, what does it say? Please note down these two terms. Number one, superficial meaning of the context. Superficial. SUPERFICIAL. Superficial meaning. And the second is underlying meaning. Underlying meaning. Superficial meaning and underlying meaning. Superficial meaning means a meaning that we can see on the surface. Underlying meaning means a deeper one, right? So let's first focus on the first word. Conquer means, what do you mean by conquer? Maybe winning, becoming victorious. Taste. With the word taste, you often go to the sweet shop. Okay, sweet shop, taste, otherwise sweets, right? So suppose that you have what do you call it, diabetics. You don't have diabetics. So if someone around you has diabetics, if the person can control eating, control his taste, he can conquer, he can win it, right? So if this is attached to sweets, if you control eating that, you will conquer yourself. That is one of the superficial meanings we find in the novel. But if we go to deeper levels, we find this taste may be desire. Desire for something, desire for life, desire for attachments. If you can get away from these attachments, you will have conquer yourself. You will win yourself, which is the last message we find in the novel, where Jagan decides to go to a retreat and find new Janma. This may be a foreshadowing prediction about the novel's ending. Conquer yourself. Conquer yourself means if you can conquer the attachments, conquer addictions, that you can conquer yourself, win yourself. So if you have any other suggestions, you can just hand up. Otherwise, send a message to me. Then I will give you the chance to speak. A very recent experience at Akkarepattu workshop. I think that some of the students are here. And they explained them nicely. They got they were versatile, eloquent in explaining things. I was so happy to see them speaking. If you feel like explaining, otherwise if you feel like typing, just let me know. Then I'll be going to the next one. The surroundings were hushed when the master counted his earnings for the day. Who's speaking here? Come on.
The narrator.
Very good. The narrator. Okay. The narrator. Somebody asked this question. Should we write the term narrator or the writer? Which is the better one?
The narrator.
Yeah, I feel that it's the narrator. Rather than the writer, it's good to say the narrator because he's the one who's telling the story. Okay. The surroundings were hushed. What is a place where this is taken? Master, who is his master?
Jagan.
Jagan, yes. Then the term master, and there's another place where we find Jagan is made a king. Can you tell me that place? That word? Where does he sit? In a chair or a throne?
Throne.
Yeah. He says that he's in his throne, means that he has sort of authority, some sort of, control over the things going on around. So the word master is also something that you need to understand. The writer, the narrator gives sort of power to this particular gentleman, Jagan, at the very beginning of the novel. Maybe that's very ironic. It's to laugh at, maybe. Example, that man is in his throne. When a king is in throne, we know that's kind of honorable. But when we say that that man in his throne, it may be to evoke laughter as well. But initially, the writer calls Jagan the master. What is he doing here? He's counting his day's earnings, right? When the surroundings were hushed, hush means a silence. You know that the hustle bustle of the daytime, and when it comes to night, even a pin drop can be heard. So that the writer creates sort of auditory imagery, and through that auditory imagery, that he's creating some sort of beautiful scene. He creates silence, hush. During that hush, the master Jagan is counting money. Maybe not notes, maybe that we get the sound of coins, It again tells us that Jagan has sort of control over there, plus he's earning money, and maybe he's satisfied by the end of it, and he has a lot of money to count. With all these things, we find that he's made a master of that particular area. Next one, peace reign at home with speech between father and son reduced to a minimum. Peace reign, peace was there at home with speech between father and son reduced to a minimum. Can someone tell me who speaks here?
The
Come on.
Cressy.
Who speaks? Come on.
The narrator.
The narrator. Good. The narrator. This is narrator. The narrator's voice. Maybe from which text? From which chapter? Which part of it? Now we categorize a novel into three, like first part, second part, and the third part. First part goes up to chapter 3, 4, 5, 3, like then we get 4 to 9, and after that we find realization part in the letter. From which part?
From the first part.
From the first part. Very good. Why do you say it is from the first part? Why do you say it is from the first part? Can someone explain? I really like if you can speak. Come on. What is the point to say that this is from the first part? Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it
come on.
shows
Yes,
the
Abdullah.
dispute of father and son relationship.
Good. Dispute has begun. What is the word you? What is maybe the word or phrase you highlight here? This is not from the middle. In the middle also we find father-son's conflict is going on. This must be from the beginning. Which word, which phrase would say that?
Reduced to a minimum.
Okay, reduced to a minimum. But in the middle also we find their conversation is reduced to a minimum.
Is it rained at home?
Peace, very good. Peace reign. In the middle, we don't find peace. Everyone is confused. Here, the first one, the word peace was there at home. But amidst that, we find that father's, son's, communication dropped to the minimum. If you are to write this, please make sure that you write this particular theme, drop of communication. Drop of communication. Okay, now we step into number 4. What a lot of time is wasted here. I have never seen a more wasteful country than ours. Who may speak here?
Mali.
Huh? Mali. Why do you say it is Mali? Any reason, any phrase to highlight?
Because of the tone.
Tone, very good. Amna, very good. I'm so happy. What a lot of time wasted here. The term wasted, wasteful. Give negative tone, add negative tone to the text. And exclamation, what a lot of time is wasted with the exclamation mark. He exclaims that this is sort of waste. And his direct complaint to India, our country. So no one would go to that length, right? Except Mali. Yeah, he says, now I need you to remember them. These are kind of magical quotations you can include at any place. What a lot of time wasted here. The term time wasted, what do you mean by that? What is the opposite of it? Time wasted means the other side of that is I'm sorry, Ayesha, you have asked a question. Hush can be onomatopoeia as well. Yes, because of that onomatopoeic sound, auditory imagery is created, Ayesha. Good. Sorry, I'm going to move again. A lot of time is wasted, so that he's going to reduce the waste of time with a machine. He believes that writing a story manually is a kind of waste of time. Maybe it's a kind of long time. Here we find he says that he's going to bring a machine. A lot of time is wasted in India. I've never seen more wasteful country than ours. It's sort of, he is getting ready to make the suggestion to the father, and he undermines India's value, believing that this country wastes time of people. So his intention is to introduce a machine. Then what is, I mean, with what country do you think that he compares his country with
With
America?
America.
Exactly, yes, with America. He tries to say that America is the dichotomy, complete different idea, different version of it. It is fast, here it is slow. Okay. Fifth one, you can remember this little quotation: money is an evil. Who speaks?
Jagan.
Jagan. Why do you say that? Why do you say that Jagan speaks these words? Money is an evil. What may be the reason why he says? He's a businessman, right? Not a single businessman would say that money is evil. Why do you think that he speaks these words?
Because he realizes that money corrupts his son.
Yeah, he didn't understand that until his son is corrupted. He often say that this money is earned for him, not for any other, and he doesn't offer money to anyone. He doesn't help. He rarely help others. But that particular money ultimately wastes his son, means it's sort of a problem. So there we find Jagan's attitude regarding money has begun to change. Sort of a dialogue where we find which shows Jagan's change of the personality. 6. Sometimes she spends time with the girls in that house while Mali goes out with his friends. Whose words are these?
The cousin's one.
The Cassine's dialogue. Can you explain the characters? Who do you mean by she?
Grace.
Grace, good. Can anyone explain what is said here? Come on. We know that Cassine bridges the gap between father and son. Now here he is doing some extra duty after Grace's arrival. He is little observant, cautious about Grace's behaviors as well. So there he comes to know, even through Mali, he comes to know about Grace, because often Mali talks to Cassine, even though he doesn't talk to the father. That he sees that Grace is trying to mix up with the girls. Maybe that she's a little curious about the culture. She's trying to learn things about the culture. And this again shows the detachment between Mali and Grace. Mali has his own world. Mali goes out with his friends, while he's out, Grace is with girls. Grace has a smaller tendency to mix up with the girls, but she somehow or the other has found some friends here. This shows a pathetic life of Grace, even though they came together. Mali's duty is to keep company to Grace, but here it doesn't happen. So the Grace is in search of friends. So this pathetically showcases the downfall of Grace's character and the detachment, separation of their relationship. Last one in these short quotations. If you meet her, tell her that if she ever wants to go back to her country, I will buy her a ticket. It's a duty we owe her. She was a good girl. Yes, anyone? Who speaks these words?
Jagan.
Jagan. Yes, any other? Yes, Amna, Swetali, both the answers are correct. Jagan, what is a chapter?
Chapter 13.
Chapter 13. Soon before that, he says goodbye to Kazim, right? If you meet her, means Grace, tell her that if she ever wants to go back to her country, to America, I will buy her a ticket. And I think that last week also I gave a little hint. She says that she will buy a ticket. He knows that Grace doesn't have money to go back. So there he shows Grace, Jagan's empathy. EMPATHY. Empathy means understanding the feelings of others toward Grace. Again, it shows that his realization that Grace is a victim, otherwise innocent character here in this particular venture. And as a Hindu man, he says that it's our duty, we owe her. She was a good girl. That's kind of announcement of Grace's character. He presents that Grace is a good character. Actually, we can decide whether Grace is a good character, right? Next week, we have questions to decide whether Grace is a good character. So we'll have to, summon information about them, right? Initially we find that Grace is a character that appears as a critical character in front of our eyes, but when it comes to this level, like, we feel sorry for Grace, but still there are black and white characteristics in Grace. Let's examine them later. All right, now it is for you. From this point onwards, I present these quotations with the chapter numbers. So you need to go through first, believe that these are given in your question paper, in the context, novel context, believe what you're going to write. First understand, now chapter is given, you don't have to be bothered about that. You find, concordate, and we discuss that actually. Further further study that. There are some other words added here. Please analyze them. Take little time and focus on the two quotations given in relation to chapter 1. Okay, read. All right, time is up. Since we discussed the first part of it, first part of the first context, I won't discuss that. But I would take this one. Jagan said Jagan to his listener. Who is his listener? He's that he's who Kasim. Why conquer the self? Jagan said. I do not know, but all our sages advise us so. If this is the context, you need to think about the last part of it. I don't know, but all our sages advise us so. He follows certain philosophies without understanding them. Example, yeah. Do you understand some of the the religious scriptures you say? Do you understand all? Sometimes you repeat because your religious leaders say that. Otherwise, your priest says you repeat. Okay, this is sort of blind following. You blindly follow that religion or something, some sort of a philosophy. Here, Jagan says, I don't know, but all our sages advise us so. At the very first, quotation, at the very first time that he uses this, he doesn't realize why he's saying this. That's something obvious for us, right? The last part is important because of that. In the latter part, in the chapter 13, he seems to show that he has realized this particular statement. Now he knows why he should conquer the taste. Now he has conquered his desire so that he's going to step into another ground of life. Second one, as long as a frying and sizzling noise in the kitchen continued and the trays passed, Jagan noticed nothing, his gaze unflinchingly fixed on the Sanskrit line in a red-bound copy of the Bhagavad Gita. But if there was the slighted pause in the sizzling, he cried out, without lifting his eyes from the sacred text, what is happening? Can you explain this to me? Please switch on the mics and speak. Whose words are these? Come on, you're dead silent. Whose words are these?
What is happening is asked by Jagan.
I can't locate who you are. Abdullah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain this, please?
So what is happening is asked by Jagan. So it shows Jagan is keen on making his workers do their work without being lazy and all.
What sort of a character quality is presented here, Abdullah? What is the character quality presented here of Jagan? Is he a true follower of Hinduism?
No, he is not really into the Bhagavad Gita, but he is wandering around his shop, whether seeing if the workers are doing good or not.
Yeah, he has show of piety. Show of piety means that example, he says that your belief, it's a show of belief, right? It's not a kind of true belief. And otherwise, we can say hypocritical behavior of Jagan, religious hypocrisy. He shows that he's reading that, but he's always, keeping his eyes and ears about what is going on inside the kitchen. And even a minute cannot, even the servants cannot take a minute's rest, that he interferes, right? As long as a frying, sizzling noise in the kitchen continued. You see the auditory imagery in this context and the visual imagery, how the sizzling happens, trace past. Jagan noticed nothing. His gaze unflinchingly fixed on Sanskrit lights, red-bound copy, a visual imagery, Bhagavad Gita. And again, the sizzling sound is going on. So if it is stopped, he lifts his eyes and showcase, I mean, ask the question, what's happening? He's a shrewd businessman, right? Even though he tries to show that he's into religion, he's very observant, shrewd businessman. So his duality, D-U-A-L-I-T-Y, his duality is also shown through this section. Aisha says, ascetic focus despite his trade. Is it or the otherwise? I feel the otherwise, right? He's more to the trade rather than the religious scripture. He's not following that, right? Chapter 2, we'll give a little chance for you to study because it's only one quotation. Jagan found his son's attraction to aspirin ominous. He merely replied, I'll get you better things to eat than this pill. Forget it, you understand. There are many other important quotations, but I feel like giving this. This is one place where we find that father and son start conflicting with each other. His son's attraction to aspirin. The son needed aspirin, right? He was so curious why it was restricted in the house. When things are restricted, children are so they are dying to get it and see. So that this would be sort of a tendency that Mali has sort of an attraction to Western, aspirin, Western, and maybe that he's so curious about why the father doesn't want him to take aspirin. Otherwise, he doesn't want the mother to take aspirin. So this is one place where we find Jagan notices son is little different and it's little mischievous, radical like. He merely replied, I'll get you better things to eat. You see, now this is a medicine, but Jagan defines it as something to eat, which is very sarcastic. He's sarcastic about this pill, believing that Margosa and all these Eastern medicines would cure illnesses better than this pill. Forget it. You understand. You see the commanding language of the father. Forget it with the what do you call this language? Where the sentences are started with verbs.
Imperative.
Very good. Imperative language. Forget it. You understand. Forget it. Imperative language, commanding language, so that he commands the son to forget that and move forward. So that I found this aspirin thing important here. That's what I wanted to give it, and how the son and father start up a kind of a conflict at this particular point. In chapter 3, we find two contexts. I will give little chance for you to study them, read them. Okay, let's focus on. These are from chapter 3. Writer meant in Jagan's dictionary only one thing, a clerk, an Anglo-Indian colonial term, since the days when Macaulay had devised a system of education to provide a constant supply of clerical staff for the East India Company. Jagan felt ghast. Here he was trying to shape the boy into an aristocrat with a bicycle, college life, striped shirts, and everything, and he wanted to be a writer. Strange. What is this? This is another place where we find the writer tries to show some dual behavior of Jagat, duplicitous behavior of Jagat. Even though he is a follower of Gandhi and trying to show that he's a true Indian and he's true to Indian tradition, he wants his son to be who? Be an aristocrat with a bicycle, college life, striped shirts. Do you get what I say? With all these, we find a sort of a Western appearance in Mali. And when Mali was wearing shirts and trousers, that he was a little proud about that as well. He was a little different from other boys. That's what he believed. And actually, I don't know why he is trying to make a fuss there when Mali changes to modernization and westernization. So there we find that his association to the freedom fight and that notion is also included here. What he knows about a writer, when Mali says, I want to become a writer in chapter 3, this is the place where Jagan shows his exclamation. He's wondered, right? He's bewildered. And he says, in the dictionary, it says that Anglo means in English and Indian, colonial means Western colonization. There we found clerical clerk. Clerical people means clerk a person who is doing underwriting and all. Right? East India Company is kind of colonial production. It's not there, not only there in India, it was there everywhere in the world. So that people were trained to become writers. Otherwise, they write and they were taken as taken into the clerical staff of this company. So Jagan did not want his son to be a person like that. He wants his son to be a moneyed person, well-off person with money and caste both, money and social class. Sorry. This again shows, even though that he doesn't want Mali to follow the white, he wants Mali to have a kind of peculiar life, good life, with a control, and it must be entangled with some sort of westernization. This is the notion we find in this chapter, in this particular quotation. Next one, even with the passing of time, Jagan never got over the memory of that moment. The coarse, raw pain he had felt at the sight of Mali on that fateful day remained petrified in some vital center of his being. From the day the barrier had come into being, the boy had ceased to speak to him normally. Can someone help me with this context? What have you found here?
This is the incident after Ambika's death.
Ambika's death. What is this fateful day? If you refer to this fateful day, what is this fateful day?
Mali telling Jagan that he wants to drop out of college.
The coarse raw pain he had felt at sight of Mali on that fateful day. Okay. Is that the one? Or else after mother's death?
Yeah, mother's death.
Yeah, fateful day is a mother's death, where Mali and mother got separation. Yeah, any other about this one?
The beginning of uh, Jagan and Mali's conflict.
Exactly. This is the place where the writers use slight notions about Jagan's and Mari's conflict. Even the previous one we found it about aspirin and all, but here he officially announces that there is something going on between myself and my son, and there he has dropped communication. You see that the boy had ceased to speak to him normally. So that is why I say that these areas are very important. Okay, these do not show that much of importance for some people, but I prefer these areas because of the in-depth importance of these. Even with the passage of time, Jagan never got over the memory of that moment. It means even after some time, Jagan could not forget that moment. It's a flashback. The course means rough, raw pain, plain pain, yet felt at the sight of Mali. On that fateful day, remained petrified in some vital center of his being. He saw the change of Mali's expression, and he was so sad. Like from that day, the barrier had come into being. What is this barrier? The barrier means communication barrier, otherwise relationship barrier between father and son. He realizes, okay, that may be the reason, that may be the day that this particular boundary got initiated between them. The boy had ceased means stopped to speak to him normally. It's kind of normal habit, habitual thing that boy reduced speaking, otherwise stopped speaking. Ceased means stopped. Drop of communication. And again, Mali's believed that father is responsible for his mother's death. And he doesn't, even though he doesn't show that, doesn't say that directly, he implies that idea through his behavior. Chapter 4, you get 1 to 3 three contexts. We'll give a little time for you. All right, let's start the discussion. First quotation from chapter 4. I hate to upset him. That's all. I have never upset him in all my life. That means you have carried things to the point where you cannot speak to him at all. Can you help me? Who speaks?
Jagan and then the cousin.
Who said the answer? Yes, Abdullah. Great. Jagan and Kazin. Who is Jagan? Who is Kazin?
I hate to upset him is by Jagan, and that means you have carried things. It's by Kazin.
Yeah. I hate to upset him. That's all. I have never upset him in all my life. That's something to focus on because Jagan Jagan believes that he has not upset him all his life. Jagan is trying his level best to provide everything to the son. That's something that we should notice. But he has never understood that son needed something that he doesn't understand. Son needed black, but father gave him white. There was not tally, so that there is a kind of miscommunication always between them. He believes that I never upset my son. So this would be there in our lives as well. Sometimes we provide certain things to certain people, but what they needed was not that. But we never understand what they needed. That is why communication is important. Talking to each other is important. Because of that drop of communication, we know that even Jagan doesn't know that son is upset. Jagan doesn't know until the son leaves the premises. Then you can understand, even though he had been living with this child, he had never empathized with the child, understood the emotions of the child. Look at the next one. It means Kasin's dialogue. That means you have carried things to the point where you cannot speak to him at all. You mean you have come into a point that you can't even talk to your son. Sort of a complaint. In this scenario, I feel that Kasin is more a good communicator, good empathizer rather than the father. He understands others than Jagan. Maybe that is also one idea we find in the novel. Kasin does not belong to certain social class, he's not honored by people in the society. He's kind of casual worker and he doesn't have that much of money, as I said. He's a casual worker, as I said. So somehow or the other, his words, his dialogues, and his behaviors, his intervention, to sons and fathers affair, his way of thinking. When we consider all, we find that Kasin is more a big package, better package to build up the relationship between young and old. He's more a good communicator, good gentleman rather than Jagan. To me, when I keep on counting on Kasin's dialogues, it says that he realizes that father and son have already detached, cannot speak to him at all. His realization that the communication is dropped. Second one, did Valmiki go to America or Germany in order to write his Ramayana? Asked Jagan with pugnacity, I'm sorry. Strange notion these boys get nowadays. Yeah, these are Jagan's words. Can someone tell me why the importance of this, please? Why this is important?
Jagan believes to write stories, you don't need to go to Germany or America to learn this stuff.
Good. Good. Is there any other notion?
Conflict between Eastern and Western culture.
Excellent. Eastern and Western culture. Good. Senadi, any other? Jagan's idea regarding Swadeshi. It means Jagan always believes that Indians are more capable in doing things rather than Westerners. Yeah, somebody said that, well, Jagan has a limitation in limitation is knowledge. That's also there. But other than that, we find that he's a patriotic and he believes that Valmiki is a huge, I mean, kind of a big writer in India. He writes Ramayana. That he says that without any guidance of a Westerner that he wrote that, then why you should go to America to learn? in that sense, I feel that he has a limited understanding about things going on. And the other important thing is his extreme patriotic ideas, which undermines the ideas of Westerners. He undermines America or Germany to show that Indians are much better than in arts rather than them. Okay, and he says that strange notions these boys get nowadays. I have this is kind of very controversial. Sometimes your parents want you to be Western. Your English education is prioritized. The outfits are prioritized. Sometimes parents allow. I'm not talking about Muslims. Sometimes Tamils. In Sinhala, sometimes in Sinhala students among my own community, I find parents want you to wear like a Westerner, talk like a Westerner, behave like a Westerner. But when the child get used to that, child automatically goes to Western society. But when it comes to marriage, when it comes to decision making, like parents want them to be total traditional Easterners. I feel that this is also a problem like that. He believes that Mali can be a Western child. Mali can be different from other traditional children here, but at a point that Jagan catches his neck and says that you should be an Indian, should honor India. Okay, that's what I say that Mali is not a single character. He's a symbolic character of many characters, many young characters ever lived in this particular community, right? And his word, strange notions these boys get nowadays. It's almost like they're off the head. Like they eat only beef and pork in that country. I used to know a man from America, and he told me they also take a lot of intoxicating drinks, never water or milk, said the Qasim, contributing his own bit of information. Yeah. Now, this quotation too shows how this how Mali, America, and that particular contribution of America to the novel would bring a total contrast. Like it says, here we find beef and pork. India hate them. Indian people usually do not eat beef, and they do not like the pork as well. Man from America, they also take a lot of intoxicating drinks as well. It means arak, alcohol, and all. Never water or milk, said the Qasim, contributing his own bit of information. So Qasim helps Jagan to realize things. And next week, I'm going to discuss this question. Who helped develop Jagan's character? Who helped, please tell me.
The cousin.
Qasim. One is Qasim. Another? Mali first. Jagan. Then
And the
third one?
bearded man.
Bearded man, yes. Mali changes Jagan's path of life. Qasim adjusts his life. And bearded man shows a different path for him to travel on. Okay. Then chapter 5. Okay, chapter 5, two quotations. Gradually, his reading of the Bhagavad Gita was replaced by the blue airmail letters. I mentioned this in the early chapter as well. He's so. Come on. Someone's microphone is on. Hania, Fatima Hania, can you switch off your microphone? Yeah, gradually his reading of the Bhagavad Gita was replaced by the blue airmail letters. Bhagavad Gita, the traditional scripture, blue airmail letters are from America, sent by Mali, it seems. This is sort of turn of objective. See, his objective is directed to airmail letters. He's so engrossed in that, eagerly waiting for airmail letters. Airmail letters symbolize Mali's message. Fatima, Hania, can you switch on your microphone? Hania, even she's not listening. Fatima, Hania, can you switch off your microphone? Airmail letters again symbolize the communication from the sun. Bhagavad Gita, we know that we discussed that. Second one, the only letter Jagan rigorously suppressed was the one in which Mali had written after 3 years experience of America. This is something that you need to know. Mali, even though this is just a mentioning Mali goes there and coming back in chapter 5, it's kind of long time, long period, right? After 3 years experience of America, I've taken to eating beef. He says, I have taken to eating beef, and I don't think I'm any the worse for it. Steak, you know, that way of preparing beef, is something quite tasty and juicy. Now, I want to suggest why not you people start eating beef. It'll solve the problem of useless cattle in our country, and we won't have to beg food from America. I sometimes feel ashamed when India asks for American aid. Instead of that, why not slaughter useless cows which wander in the streets and block traffic? I seriously need a comment from you about this context. I'm waiting. Kindly. This is said in a letter, but do you have anything else to tell about this context? Come on. Okay, are these words from Mali directly? Come on. Yes, Aisha?
No, sir.
Then what?
It's allegiance from grace.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the sort of vague reality we find in the novel. These novels come under the name of Mali, but ultimately we get revealed that these are compiled by grace, and we actually in the middle regarding these two, right? So maybe his ideas are written by grace, otherwise these are totally written by grace. Some or the other, these must not be taken into that, but believe that this is sort of Western and East rift. I'm sorry, you can take this word rift, R-I-F-T, conflict. Rift means conflict. Rift between Western and Eastern. Western practical notion. They say that practically you can reduce the cattle if you eat them. But when it comes to India, Indian people are very sensitive and spiritual. They worship, they believe that the cow is a sacred animal because the cow is connected to God, Hinduism. So they never kill cow. So this is the debate between Western and Eastern, right? Taken eating beef and steak is juicy, tasty, which will rather bring some disgusting feeling to Hindu. I suggest why people not start eating beef, and make a very serious suggestion. And the letter says, if that is done, we don't have to beg food from America because we have a lot of cattle here in India. Okay, so that please note down Western practicality and Eastern sensitivity. This is the conflict we find in this context. Sort of a debate between Western and Eastern. As I told you, rift, conflict between these two. Again, practicality and their belief of religion. And the first part again says, the only letter Jagan rigorously suppressed, controlled. He controlled his feeling once the letter said this sort of a thing. This makes a shock to Jagan. After 3 years, when this letter is received, he got a shock, because coming to know that Mali is totally different. Mali has already made a totally different, contrasting figure to Indian traditional culture. A very sensitive dialogue you need to remember. Chapter 6, I have picked 3. It's open for you to see. The first one in chapter 6, you're not one who knows how to make money. If you were unscrupulous, you could have built many mansions. Who knows? And what would one do with many mansions? I need your voice here. Who speaks?
The first one is by Kazin and the next one is by Jagan.
Okay, well, you are not one who knows how to make money. If you are unscrupulous, you could have built many mansions. Who knows? Yes, Kasin's practical words, practical voice. And the second one, what would one do with many mansions? So by chapter 6, after intermingling Sun's ideas, we know that Jagan is going down with his materialistic ideas. He's a little lost with that. Like he says, why? Why should we need many mansions? Again, we find that Kasin's dialogues are very practical. You need to examine them. Very practical, and it has mixture of both Western and Eastern attitude. That is why he sometimes he becomes a mouthpiece of Jagan. Sometimes he becomes a mouthpiece of Kasin. Sorry, Mali. Mouthpiece means that he speaks like Jagan. He speaks like Mali at times. Here we find that he speaks like Mali. Sort of Western attitude, practical attitude. So therefore, when examining Kasin's character, you need to think in this dialogue what sort of person he speaks. Jagan asks, do you want to use this for writing stories? Yes, I'm also going to manufacture and sell it in this country. An American company is offering to collaborate. In course of time, every home in this country will possess one, and we will produce more stories than any other nation in the world. Right now, we are a little backward. Except Ramayana, Mahabharata, those old stories, there is no modern writing. Whereas in America alone, every publishing season, 10,000 books are published. Jagan's question, why do you want these machines? This is about storytelling machine. Okay, I'm also going to manufacture and sell it in the country. So that his stance, Mali's stance is presented here. American companies collaborating, you know that it's not kind of one person's involvement, sort of a company. In course of time, every home in the country will possess one and will produce more stories. This discussion is connected to quantity. It is not connected to quality. Please note down those two words. He says more stories. Thousands of books. He doesn't talk about quality of the book. He doesn't talk about spirituality of writing. He doesn't talk about artistic value of it. But he talks about quantity. More and more books means more and more money for him. He compares this with America. America publishes 10,000 books, but we are very slow. He again says that we are very slow and backward. Still, we are cherishing the old stories like Ramayana and Mahabharata. That is a critical notion we find here. That is why I wanted to pick this. And please read, reread, and pick certain important quotations to include in your writing. Next one, prayer was a sound way of isolating oneself, but sooner or later it ended. One could not go on praying eternally, though one ought to. Who speaks these words? These are the words of the narrator. Prayer was sound way of isolating oneself, but sooner or later it ended. One could not go on praying eternally, though one ought to. These words are related to Jagan. Jagan is trying to isolate himself after the conflict arrives. Like Mali keeps on asking money, so that he's trying to escape from Mali's request. For that, he finds a nice way of isolating himself. That is a prayer. Okay, he prays and tries to show that he's busy with prayers to escape from Mali's request. But the novelist says, the narrator says, one can't keep on praying forever. Okay, you can't eternally pray. One day it should be ended. So some of the other prayers are taken as one way of escaping by Jagan. But remember, this is not the first place Jagan uses religion to escape from his true self. Bhagavad Gita at the first chapter, to escape from his real self. He covers up his real self with certain religious scriptures. Here also we find the same. His duplicitous nature, dual nature is presented here. Chapter 7. Can you tell me who speaks here?
Jagan and the bearded.
Jagan and the bearded man. Very good. Now we know chapter 6 is a storytelling machine, confusion. In 7, we find Jagan takes a turn to another direction of his life. Do you make your images there? Jagan asks. images, that images come in retreats, temples. And this the man, as you said, Chinnadore, into a big laugh and said, did I not tell you what I do now? He has dual business. One is business in the sense, one is to make statues, the other one is to sell hair dye. I can make the whitest hair look black. Why do you think that R.K. Narayan has selected this particular man as a hair dyer? Why he's a hair dyer?
Because he covers the real nature of people.
Okay, very good. He covers up the real nature of people. That is one. Okay, good. Why it is important? Why it is important? It again showcases many of the characters we find in the society have their own version of life. Some are black, some have black and white both. They are almost like ash characters. They are mixtures of black and white. Simply we find the bearded man. He comes as a savior. He comes as a religious man to show the path to Jagan, but he too has dual notions in his life. He is also hypocritical. He associates Jagan for what? He has an ulterior motive to get money from Jagan to build up the ashram. Okay, and again, as she said, I agree, and I to approve what she said. He shows appearance versus reality. Example, the reality is covered by black dye. So it's very peculiar that R.K. Narayan picks characters of this nature. With the very vicinity, we don't feel like believing in a man who covers up the reality of people, who appears as a savior of Jagan. Okay, chapter 8. He went on talking, and Jagan listened agape as if a new word had flashed into him. Can you tell me who do you mean by he?
The bearded man or the Chinnadore.
Bearded man. Yes, Chinnadore, bearded man. Is something very, very important. Jagan realizes this bearded man would do something positive to his life. He gave means that he has open mouth and listening to this man about how he presents a new world in front of him. How he realized that his world is a narrow one. Now, actually, this is very important for you to understand. Jagan's world was limited to his sweetmeat shop and to his own house. That was a line that he walks between. Right? His world was that. He realizes my world was very little. I was entrapped in that. Now this man shows me a different world. He takes it as something, something amazing. Someone has come to save his life. He's taken as a savior. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, how do you explain these quotations? Who speaks the first dialogue?
Mali.
Mali, yes. There's a condition created here, and there's a little unsounded threat in these words. If she has nothing to do, she refers to Grace. She goes back to America. That's all. She goes back, that's all. Still, Jagan doesn't know that there is no marriage in between them. So Jagan becomes shocked hearing this. The air ticket must be bought immediately. So for that also that he needs money. He doesn't have money to buy the air ticket to Grace. Says that he doesn't have money. This becomes crucial. Okay, there he makes kind of a condition for the father to keep Grace here in India. That condition is money. So this is important because of that. This rift is going on, the conflict is going on. But there he says, if you do not give me money, Grace would have to go back. Okay. Next context in that, but a wife must be with her husband, whatever happens. That was in your day, said Mali, and left the room. The traditional notion of Indians is wife must be with the husband, whatever happens. Look at that term, whatever happens. Now, this is also patriarchal, male dominant definition about man, about relationships. I'm sorry. This was true to Jagan's father and Jagan's mother. So true to Jagan and Ambika. That he was not caring to Ambika because believing that Ambika must follow and take whatever the medicine he suggests. Okay. There he says, whatever happens, wife must be with the husband. Kind of eternal bond made between one Hindu man and a Hindu woman. So this shows, this snaps, Mali snaps and tells that that was in your day, not now. Time has changed, and left the room. Okay, so this is quite important to remember. The quotations like that was in your day, to show the open conflict between father and son. Chapter 10. More has no use for me. Use or no use, my wife. Well, you know, I looked after her all her life. Who speaks the first one? More has no more use for me.
Grace.
Grace. Who is this more?
Mali.
Mali. Has no more use for me. So this is Grace's realization of their relationship. And there we find that Jagan realizes that there's a problem between their relationship. Problem in their relationship rather. Use or no use, my wife is Ambika. Well, you know, I looked after her all her life. I have a little critical notion about that. He says, use or no use, I took care of my wife. I don't know how he means that, but the readers know that he could not actually do that. At the very first part of his life, that he really loved Ambika, desired to be with Ambika, but later on we find that their relationship was damaged. Especially we find that Ambika hated Jagan for certain reasons. Someone that this is his estimation about his treatment, rather treat towards his wife. He too is a failure, like Mali is a failure to treat Grace well. That is why this quotation is important. Chapter 10 brings another important quotation. Can you read this space and try to understand what that is? Our young men live in a different world from ours, and we must not let ourselves be upset too much by certain things they do. Who speaks this dialogue, these words?
The cousin.
Cousin, right? Cousin explains, our young men live in a different world from ours. This again showcases how important Cousin's dialogues are. I again invite you, find and underline Cousin's dialogues. Very few dialogues are there. Why Cousin speaks very few dialogues? Because of his social class, because he's an outsider to his family, right? Jagan believes that he's a superior person. Therefore, we find Cousin's dialogues are very few compared to the others' dialogues. Like in Luca's dialogues in the Bear, others have long and heavy dialogues, whereas Luca has very short but effective dialogues. If you discuss Cousin, the importance of Cousin's character, you need to highlight these areas as well. For example, Cousin speaks very few, but they are very effective. And they are updated dialogues as well, updated ideas rather, so that he realizes the modernization. And he has accepted that these are going to be the changes in our country. Young men live in a different world from ours, and we must not let ourselves be upset too much by certain things they do. He says their world is different, so why should we be upset about it? Things change. Okay, there we find Cousin is a resilient man. Okay, flexible man. He can understand the changes. He can accept them as well compared to Jagan. And I told you at the beginning, Cousin is a mixture of Western and Eastern attitudes, both. He realizes both. His circle is a shifted one, right? His word is a bigger one compared to Jagan's when we consider the dialogues of Cousin. Chapter 11. Grace has been getting funny notions. That's why I told you to pack her off. But you grudge the expenditure, said Mali. This is something that I really need you to understand. This dialogue would further showcase that Mali is a hypocritical man. He uses grace as a bait, B-A-I-T, bait, Emma, to capture the father and to get his money. This hypocrisy ultimately makes him victimized. He uses grace and he says that grace has funny notions. It seems that she's sort of off the headline. That's why I told you to pack her off, send her off. I don't want to be with her, so that is why I'm going to send her off. But you grudged the expenditure, you grudged the money. You thought of money. Because of that, you hated that idea. Then in that way that he's going to snap the money from the father. This showcases that he victimizes the father, Grace both. He manipulates the father and Grace both. So please remember that dialogue as well because of that reason. Chapter 12. First dialogue, first quotation. Jagan, as became a junior, was careful not to show too much personal interest in his marriage, but he was anxious to know what was going on. As we have discussed in the Winter of Sweets, chapter 12 is a flashback. Um, there, that Jagan goes back to his young memories uh, and reminds how he met Ambika, how his marriage was arranged, how his first days of marriage was uh, spent, and so on. Became a junior. That in his mind, he becomes nostalgic actually here after coming to know that Sons and Grace's marriages has not taken place. That he goes back to his past in his memory. Was careful not to show too much personal interest in marriage, but he was anxious to know what was going on. He was not so interested in a marriage, but he was so anxious, impatient uh, to know what was going on in a marriage. Okay. Second one, they sent out 3,000 invitations. This is something very important in relation to this. Jagan's whole time was spent in greeting the guests and prostrating himself at their feet as if they were older relatives. The priest compelled him to sit before the holy fire, performing complicated rites and reciting sacred mantras. His consolation was that during most of these, he had to be clasping his wife's hand. He felt enormously responsible as he glanced at the sacred thali he had knotted around her neck at the most auspicious moment of the ceremonies. This is a picture of sort of a visual imagery of a traditional Hindu marriage. This is why this is given in the novel. This contrasts Mali's and Grace's relationship. And again, the thali, traditional bondage, that traditional symbol of marriage, would symbolize the open neck of the free neck of Grace. Grace doesn't wear any thali. So there we find the contrast between those two generations. But critical notion under this is, even though Jagan marries like this, even Mali keeps a relationship like that, both the marriages ultimately victimize two women. In Grace's case scenario, Grace is less victimized compared to Ambika. Ambika died without seeing the world. In that scenario, I find that Grace has a shifted paradigm. She has a bigger circle. She gets more and more experience about the world, at least, right? Struggling with all these, that still she is surviving. Grace ultimately is shown as a fighter. She decides to go back. She's trying to continue in her life. Last quotation. In the last 2 pages of the novel, I invite you to read those 2 pages before you go to the exam. Rather than that, I'm reading from the book. Because it says, no, don't say so. We must do our best to get Mali out. They could sentence him up to 2 years under this act once Mali is caught with something in the car. Who are we to get him out or to put him in? Jagan asked. Truth ought to get him out. If what you say is true, I will seek a new interest different from the set of repetitions performed for 60 years. I am going somewhere, not carrying more than what my shoulder can bear. All that I need is in that bag. He says that I'm taking something with me. There, Jagan searches a bag, Kasim just searches a bag and says, include the bank book, I suppose, asks the Kasim, which is a compact way of carrying things. How far are you going? Take the book and read them again soon after the class, otherwise tomorrow. Kasim is very sarcastic about that. You take the bank book with you means that you take everything with you. That's a compact, simple way that you can take your belonging. It seems that he is taking all with him, right? He is taking the money with him. So, in the given quotation, that's why I discourage this idea of buying that horrible green car. That Mali buys a car, so that he did not want him to buy a car. He vented his rage. He let out the rage against the green automobile until the Kasim interrupted. The bottle could be sneaked in anywhere. Bottle in the sense arak. He's caught with a bottle of arak in the car. You don't understand. It is a motor car that creates all sort of notions in a young fellow, said Jagan. Buying a motor car means it creates a lot of notions in a young man. Even at the last moment, Jagan believes that his son needs more maturity. He mentions Mali as a young man. And last few dialogues of the chapter, in the last page, a dose of prison life is not a bad thing. It may be just what he needs now, said Jagan, opening his bag and taking out his checkbook. Resting it on his knee, he wrote out a check and handed it to the Kasim. If there are further charges, asked the Kasim, we'll pay them. That's all. You can ask me whenever you like. I'm not flying away to another planet. The Kasim was amazed at the transformation in Jagan, who kept repeating, his eyes still wet. A little prison life won't harm anyone. I must not miss the bus at Market Gate at 8:30. I don't want to ask questions, but tell me, where is she? He asked, rising and shouldering his bag. She has friends who have found a job for her in a woman's hostel. Can understand that place is abandoned by now. Began the Kasim, but Jagan dismissed the subject halfway through the other's explanation and said, if you meet her, tell her that if she ever wants to go back to her country, I will buy her a ticket. It's a duty we owe her. She was a good girl. So actually, we have both the notions by the end of the novel. We get a funny notion as well because he's taking the checkbook, passbook, and bank book as well. But on the other hand, the message that he tries to pass is so positive and so so matured as well. It seems that Jagan has got some experience of life with the interaction of his own son. He says that he's to be mature. Punishment would do that. A little bit of prison life would do something for him. And I'm sympathizing with Grace. Now you understood Grace's situation by now. She's working in India because she doesn't have money to go back. Abandoned by Mali, and even Jagan is also moving away. So that is the notion that is there in the mind of Jagan. He shows his understanding. He shows his responsibility, promising that one day I will be buying a ticket to her to go to America if she needs to go. Okay. That winds up today's lesson. So as promised, I went through discussing important quotations of all the 13 chapters. And next week is very important. do not miss next week's class. I'm going to give you essay questions, and I'm going to discuss how context questions are given marks, what sort of answers should be given. And I'll be giving you some models of introductions and conclusions and how your answer should be compiled, so that it'll be the end of the course. We'll decide the date anyway, right? So I'll be discussing in the group. Please openly comment. Thank you very much. Then good night to you all.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.